Hello my lovely jubblies, I'm Fantasims and today we are going to be making some hanging beds. So, a simmer named Padme Kalani, I hope I'm saying that right, put out a challenge to try and create this room that includes this hanging bed and hanging chair that they actually have in The Sims Free Play. I'm wondering why we don't have furniture like this in Sims 4 because this is really cool. Today I am going to try and recreate this hanging bed style and let's see if we can do it. Oops, here's a cheeky sneak peek of what I've been working on, but you didn't see anything. Alright, so let's demolish this lot and get started. I'm building beds on a beach because it's a gloomy day in Michigan. And I miss the summer and I'm not ready for cold weather. So let's find some beds that suit this floating style. There's not really any plain flat beds, except Eco Lifestyle has this kind of bed, the grungy stained bed. All the other ones have headboards and footboards, but something like that could work too. I mean, there's this ugly camping bed, but I don't want to make that one a hanging bed. Okay, so I'm going to try 3 different versions of a hanging bed, and I will try to show how you can accomplish it with or without using Twisted Mexie's tool mod. So if you're not familiar, the tool mod lets you rotate objects in all different ways. I'll put a link in the description below for where you can download it. Alright, now I just checked. If you use the tool mod to elevate the bed by 0.3, you can actually get it higher than if you click the 9 key on your keyboard twice, and your sim will be able to sit and sleep on both of them. But if I elevate without the tool mod up to 3, which is pretty much the same level as if you use the tool mod, it won't work for some reason. So if you're a console player and you can't use the tool mod, then elevate the bed twice. But if you are using the tool mod, you could probably get away with elevating the bed a bit higher. So if you're not sure how to do that, I'll show you. In live mode, shift, click, tool, elevate, 0.3. And there you go, it will lift it up for you. You can do it with or without the tool mod, but I'm going to use it with the tool mod because I can elevate it a bit higher. So you see with 0.3, your sim will still be able to sit on it. Now, they will be hovering above the ground, but that's fine. Alright, now for that look where it's hanging, usually it's flat at the bottom, but all of the beds have legs except for this grungy trash bed from Eco Lifestyle. So we're going to have to try and create something underneath to kind of hide those legs. And we don't really have ropes in the game, but we do have hanging plants from Nifty Knitting that can work as ropes to hold the bed. But I recommend using this one because it has a succulent in it and the plant is flat versus this one where you're going to have greenery poking out the sides of your bed. For this more contemporary Pinterest type style of room, I would suggest doing a low wall height if you're going to be using these hanging plants. You can do medium, this is currently at medium wall height. You can do medium and tall wall height, but you'll have to use the medium size hanging plant and oversize it by clicking the right bracket key and then kind of position it where you want it to be, and this will have to be hidden with some sort of platform underneath. But the only problem is it will be touching the floor, so you still get that hanging bed effect, but it does also look like it has a post at the bottom of the bed, which kind of defeats the purpose a bit. So instead I'm going to set this one to the small wall height and use the long hanging plant because I can elevate this one. I'll position it better in a minute, and you'll get the illusion that it's hanging and it's got that little tassel at the bottom, and it's probably going to be easier to hide this smaller plant pot size. The only thing you have to keep in mind though is if you have a floor above, because we elevated the hanging plant, it's going to go above the wall into the floor of the upstairs, which is fine if this is the top floor and you've got a roof on top of this, or you can hide it with some furniture and you won't be able to see it. I'm going to use the paler rope swatch because I think that goes with the color scheme of the room a bit better. And now I'm just going to reposition the plant around it and then do this 3 more times. Okay, so I've got my ropes where I want them, and in live mode I'm just double checking and testing it out. Usually you can place objects in the corners of beds and it usually doesn't interfere with your sims being able to use it, but I just wanted to double check before I put in the effort of trying to create a base underneath it. Now for the base underneath, you have to use objects whose footprint will not interfere with the footprint of the bed. So what I mean by that is the green grid that's underneath an object. Some of the green grids don't interfere with the sims being able to use a piece of furniture, but most of them do, which is why using debug objects is helpful, or using Twisted Mexie's tool mod to rotate like these debug planks of wood or other pieces of furniture. If you rotate it on the side, then all of a sudden the green footprint is on the side and it shouldn't interfere with your sim being able to use it. Still double check. But I'm going to try out a few objects that I could use as a platform, and one of them is a picture frame. So if I size this up twice and then go into live mode, if you're not familiar with tool mod, once it's installed you shift click, then click tool, then rotate, and it will give you different axis lines. So if you want to rotate it this way, you can leave it that way. I'm going to change the axis to this way, and I want to rotate it backwards, so I'm going to do minus 90 degrees. And there you go. Okay, now I'm going to go back over into build mode, and then I'll elevate it. Okay, I elevated it by 5. But that's a bit small. It's almost big enough, but not quite. So back in live mode, the tool mod has another feature where you can scale something bigger or smaller. Now in build mode, you can do that using the left and right bracket keys on your keyboard to make things bigger or smaller, but they go in very specific increments, and sometimes the next size up is too big. So the tool mod is great for that because you just shift click, tool, scale, and objects are automatically size 1. So I sized it up 3 times, so now it's at a 3. So I'm going to try with 3.1 because I only want it a bit bigger, and we'll see if that's big enough. No, that's not enough. So I'm going to scale again, and this time I'll do 3.3. That might be too big. Yeah, because the picture frame is a bit long, but I am also trying to hide these plants as well, so I do need it wide enough, and currently I don't think it's wide enough. So let's try again. Let's do 3.35, slightly bigger, and hopefully that will cover it. We'll test it out in build mode. I'm just repositioning it. Not quite on the side. See, I like the way that that looks, but I don't like this longer piece at the back. So we've got some options. We can either leave it sticking out like that, or we can kind of add something to the headboard to make it look like it's intentional, like it's supposed to be sticking out that far. But I am going to try and pull it forward just a little bit. Oh, I think I have an idea of what I could do instead to make this longer platform work. You can see I didn't test this out before doing the video. Okay, that kind of centered. Yeah, that's better. And now I'm going to actually move these. Actually, we could probably get away with making these smaller. Let's try that. Okay, so with the tool mod, if I want to edit several things at once, shift click, tool, toggle active object, then hold the Alt key and click on the other objects you want to change the size of at the same time. And then shift click on one of the objects, click tool, and then scale. And I want it to be smaller than its original size, which is 1. So I'm going to try it at 0.9. Let's try, oops, I accidentally moved it. So if something like this happens where I accidentally put it in the ground, shift click on the ground, tool options, undo, and it'll pop it back where it was. Okay, I'm going to shift click again, tool, scale, and this time I'm going to try 0.85. And that might actually work better, and it won't poke into the level above. Why didn't I think of that before? But if you're not using the tool mod, then you wouldn't be able to do that. Okay, so back to build mode, and I'm going to adjust all the plant pots to the corners of this frame. Okay, so I've adjusted all 4 of the ropes, but the top of the succulent plant is poking through, so I'm going to go back into live mode, shift click, tool, elevate, and I only want to try moving it up by a fraction, so I'm going to put 0.05. So that's perfect as the top is concerned, but the legs are still poking out underneath. So what I can do, it will hide some of this tassel, which I kind of like the way that that tassel looks. But what we can do is duplicate this and put another layer underneath. So to duplicate something, just toggle active object, then hold down the shift and alt key at the same time and click on another area, and you'll have a duplicate. Then to stop it from being green, just click on another object or click on the same object. Now I could just click on the object, hold the shift key down, click again, and it will give me a duplicate of the object, but it'll put it back in its original position and original size. Whereas if you do it through the tool mod like I just showed you, it will give you an exact replica of what you've done in the angle you've put it, in the size you've put it. Okay, so now we're going to elevate this one underneath. And now the feet are hidden. I don't love the way that it looks with that line. So what I might do, instead of having this dark ridge and then the dark ridge again, I'm going to flip this bottom one over so it just has one line going through it. I'll show you what I mean. I'll elevate it first just in case it gets lost in the floor. And then when I go into live mode, shift, tool, rotate. I'm going to change the axis. Yep, and I'm going to do 180 degrees to flip it upside down. I know this whole process might seem really tricky, and some people think that the tool mod... Some people think that the tool mod is really difficult to use. It's actually not that difficult to use. What makes the process difficult is just your own brain trying to figure out where to position things and how many times to reposition and rotate and change the angles of things. So that's really the part that's time consuming. Okay, so I'm going to try and position this underneath the bed. And doing it this way looks a bit better because now you've got like the highlight at the bottom of the bed and just one dark line rather than 2 dark lines. That's pretty close. But because of flickering issues, we're going to have to size down one of them slightly. And I'll size down the bottom one. So back over to live mode, shift, tool, scale. Now I can't remember, what size did we do? Was it 3.35? So I'm going to try 3.34. And there you go. It makes it just small enough that it gets rid of all the flickering. I probably could do, let's try 3.345, which adds a 0.005, a fraction of a bit bigger. Yep. And then it almost looks like it's exactly the same size. And here I'm just testing it to double check that it actually works, and it works. Yes. Okay, now we've got this gap and I have an idea of what we can do. I'm going to move the bed down slightly. Is that even? Nope. Don't want it to interfere with the ropes. So let's pull it forward, away from the ropes. There we go. Okay, so for this, there's just this tiny little bottom area, but I have an idea of like an end table with a drinks tray. Okay, so we've got some options on what we can do. You can just find something flat to put at the end of the bed, so it could be a debug object or something like a plank of wood, or we can try using a shelf, but you'll probably need to use a couple of them. So here I've got 3 shelves, although it creates a bit of flickering. So with the tool mod, you can make one of them, you can make like the one in the middle slightly smaller, like I showed you how to do before. If you're not using the tool mod, then you'll want to find something skinny enough to fit at the bottom. So a debug plank of wood might work better, or you can use something like this. This is a base game end table, like coffee table. And it's got like a glass top, which is kind of cool, although the legs are sticking through. So let's go over to live mode, click on the coffee table, and we're going to scale it. 0.9, yeah, that's a bit too small. 0.95, okay, that's doable. I just like how it looks. It's got like this glass end to it, like this little end table. And we can elevate it just very slightly, so I'm going to try 0.05. That might be too high. Yeah, I don't really like that. Minus 0.025. I don't know. I don't think I like the glass hovering over the edge, so I think it was better before. So let's elevate by minus 0.005. Still not enough. Another minus 0.005. And it's flush against... Yeah, I still don't like it. Tool, elevate, minus 0.005 again. Okay, that's better. But it is cutting into the bed, so I do need to double check that he can actually use it. Yep, it can still be used. Okay, so I've just grabbed some plushies from Nifty Knitting and this drink tray from Eco Lifestyle, because you could use this end sticking out piece of the bed as a little storage area. I'm actually going to shrink this drink tray, click it on the surface, then grab it again, hold the Alt key and pull it away, and you can get away with positioning it so that it doesn't lock against the surface like it normally would. But because I sized down this end table or this coffee table, it will hover slightly above, so we do have to go over into live mode and lower it slightly. We'll do that in a minute though. Let's first add some plushies. Okay, so in live mode, I'm gonna toggle the objects, toggle active object, alt click, shift click, tool, elevate, minus 0.025. That might be too much. Oh no, that's good. Perfect. And then click on one of the objects until it stops being green. And there we have our little hanging bed. That turned out really good. I mean, the color doesn't exactly match the headboard, but you know what? It's fine. Now, I showed you how to do it with the tool mod. If you're not going to use the tool mod, for this style, it is going to be a bit more tricky to find an object that doesn't have a footprint that will interfere with the bed. So I didn't spend enough time digging through the debug menu to find something that would work, but I will show you how to do it without the tool mod for the other 2 styles. And just a couple more options that you can use is you can use tool mod to rotate these planks of wood to the side. There are some flat planks of wood in the debug menu, but they have a footprint on them which might interfere with the bed being usable. But if you rotate these planks onto the side by 90 degrees, the footprint will be off to the side like it was with this picture frame. You can also try using some doors by rotating them backwards and using that as a platform instead. Okay, so now that we have this room finished and looking very Pinterest worthy, let's move on to our grungy version. Now for this one, I'm going to pump it back up to medium height walls. And this bed from Eco Lifestyle is perfect because it already has a flat base to it, no headboard, so it suits that hanging bed type of style the best, and it looks disgusting, so it's perfect for a rags to riches, post-apocalyptic, industrial type of bedroom. So there's a couple things you can do. There's these lamps that have chains on them from Journey to Batu, which would look really cool if you make them bigger, although that is massive, so you'd have to create like a really big bed platform. And the downside of using a light fixture, I mean, you can turn the light off in live mode, so that's not a problem, but when you get close to a lamp, especially in live mode, it disappears. Like, it's disappearing when you get really close in build mode, but in live mode it disappears when you're like this far away from it, so you're going to lose the illusion of the bed hanging if you use chain. But this is a great option if you want to build like a massive medieval style bed and you're going to have a bigger base. I didn't think about how big this piece would be once you blow it up, so yeah, we're not going to use that one. Instead, these wires are debug from Journey to Batu, and I'm going to use them either side of the bed as kind of like holding it up in this makeshift sort of way. And you can do this without using the tool mod because they're already hanging vertical, so you can just take the bed, elevate it twice if you're not using tool mod, and then elevate these hanging cords until the bottom one looks like it goes goes under the bed like that. Although, as you see, if you look at the very top of this cord, it doesn't exactly go right up to the ceiling level, so you might have to elevate an object right above it to make it look like it's attached to the ceiling. We'll do that in a minute. And then if you want to go the non-tool mod route, you can use these palettes from Eco Lifestyle. If you see, the footprint is this tiny green square in the middle, and that means that it will not interfere with your sim being able to use the bed. So you can use it as is and just elevate it once and use it like a pallet bed, although this size doesn't really fit this bed properly. So you could also make smaller versions. I'm able to shift click debug objects because I'm using Better Build by mod by Twisted Mexi, same person who does the tool mod, and he has organized all debug objects and made it possible to clone them. It's so awesome and time saving. So you could do something like that where you size down the pallets and put several of them around, and your sim will be able to use the bed. I already tested it out, so that works. But I'm actually going to use tool mod. I'm going to rotate these fences. I'm going to do what I did with the other bed, and I'm going to elevate it by 0.3. Okay, so this is something I just discovered. I could actually only elevate this by 0.25 using the tool mod rather than the 0.3 that I did for this bed, and it might be because this bed is thicker. So you might have to play around with what heights work because it seems like the beds might be different. We'll test it out on this third one and see if this one's the same as the first one we did. But anyway, I've already rotated this piece of wood. Obviously it's too big. I mean, you can get away with not putting something under this bed because it's already flat at the bottom, but I think it ties into the cables a bit better. And look, it gives a little rest for his feet. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So then I'm just gonna position these cords. Alright, there is a slight gap between the base and the bottom of the bed, so I am going to elevate it in live mode by a tiny fraction, 0.005, okay, a bit more, 0.01, that's double that. Okay, let's try one more, 0.01, so I could have just done 0.025, although I can kind of see the cords slightly underneath. You're not really going to see it because this platform is elevated, so let's just elevate these cords by 0.015, let's try that out. I guess we should have elevated this one by 0.025 as well. It's just trial and error, really. Okay, that's good. Alright, let's see how much of a gap there is between the ceiling and the top of the cord. I'm just going to build a wall so we can kind of get a sense. It's pretty close to the wall. Now we just need to find an object, like some sort of something metal that kind of looks like a hinge would work really well. Or you could just take 2 planks of wood like this and put them across and make them like beams. I mean, you could do that. That works. But it's also a bit chunky, so I don't know if I like that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Or there's objects like, I just did a search for upgrade parts and sized this up. I mean, I don't really like the copper color, but this beam I think just blocks, like when you're playing the game, this beam is just going to block the area I think a bit too much, so even though that is a good option. Okay, so in the Journey to Batu items, I found these kind of things that would work really well. Maybe this one, I think that color works the best, and it's got that grungy finish which is perfect. We'll just have to size it down, and it automatically is attached to the ceiling, so we don't have to worry about trying to position it. And just with the Alt key, I'm going to, I don't know, it's a bit big though. Whatever, it's good enough, right? Okay, and then I used a different one for one of them just to make it look a bit mismatched and a bit more scrappy. And there you have a more industrial rags to riches type of hanging bed. Alright, so I tried elevating the bed by 0.3 like I did for the first one. It wouldn't let my sim sit on it, so I had to do it at 0.25 for this bed. But if you notice, I also elevated this one by 0.25 and it sits a lot higher. So it seems like most of the beds can be elevated by 0.25. You can always try it even higher, like 0.27, whatever. I'm not going to spend all that time trying to figure it out, but you can if you want to. And even though this bed goes the best with what I did for the room, I think that it's going to be harder to make it look like it's hanging since these posts are so close to the ground, whereas this one is going to look like it's hanging a lot better, so I'm going to use this one instead. Now, the same issue with the lights disappearing is the same thing that happens with these vines. I was going to use these vines to hang the bed from, but look, when you go close, it disappears. And since inside a room you're going to be close up, you're not really going to be viewing a room from back here, so I don't think we'll be able to use those vines, but these vines from the debug from Jungle Adventure should work. Right, so I'm just going to elevate these, and because they don't really have a footprint, it shouldn't interfere with your sim being able to use the bed. I don't know if I like that. Yeah, no, I don't think I like that. Okay, instead I'll just put them as part of the background. Oh, and just a note, I am using these debug versions of this grass that comes with Jungle Adventure. There's a version that's not in the debug menu that looks identical to this, I think, but the footprint is massive and it will interfere, it will block your sim's path, whereas this one does not, which is why I put it underneath the bed as a sort of rug. Now we could try using something like this as vines, they're just very thick, or we can use these from Island Living. Those are really pretty. What color do I like best? I think the pink, I mean, I'm not really a pink person, but I think the pink goes with the room that I did the best. And it's got the single row of flowers, which I think is a bit easier because you can still see the bed through it. The only thing is these don't touch the ceiling. So I drew a wall just to see how high I need to go to touch the ceiling at a medium level height. Alright, now if you're not using the tool mod, you can use objects like these mossy logs from Journey to Batu, but I noticed through playtesting it that you can only really place them at the bottom of the bed. Up here, close to the bed, you're going to have to use something that doesn't have a footprint, like this has a footprint, and it's sticking out over the edge of the bed, which is why when I had it across the whole thing, the sim wasn't able to sit or sleep in the bed. Also, we need to find something to put at the end to attach the flowers to the base of the bed and kind of hide where the legs of the bed stick out, and find something else without a footprint. So there are some options if you can't use the tool mod. You just have to kind of search through some of the debug objects until you can find things that will work the best. So it is a lot more work if you don't have the tool mod, but it is possible. It's a bit more challenging, but it is possible. So I've already done these 2 rooms and I'm tired. I just want this bed to be finished. So I am actually going to use the tool mod for the rest of it to show what else you can do to give it a hanging fairy bed feel. Okay, so I couldn't find any wood pieces that really match the color of this bed, so I think I'm going to try the door trick instead. But first I'm just going to use these vines sized down at the ends of the bed to attach to the flowers. Okay, so in live mode I'm gonna toggle active them, and I face them in different directions so that I could rotate them with the same angle, because normally you'd have to do like -90 and the other one at +90, but because I put them in both in different directions, I can just do -90 for both of them, and see they'll go on opposite ends, which is what I want. Also, they're a bit big, so I'm going to scale them down to maybe 0.8, see if that works. That looks like it could be about right. We'll try it and see. Now I'm gonna have to temporarily delete the wall because the door keeps locking onto the wall area, but it seems like the width is pretty good. It's kind of hard to see because all the plants are in the way. And there's a bit of flickering because flat surfaces, when you put them right next to each other, will flicker, but that's okay. We'll elevate one of them slightly like we did last time. Alright, let's try elevating it by 0.1, see what happens. The bed feet are longer, so that was too far. You'd think I'd learn by now. -0.05, see if that's better. Yep, that's like right where it is. And then I'm going to elevate the bottom one slightly by 0.005, and no more flickering. I mean, this back part probably sticks out a little bit too much, but I'm not going to mess around with tweaking it for the sake of this video. I just wanted to show you some options of what you can do. And then a neat little trick is to take these fireflies and will-o-wisp, I've got them from Outdoor Retreat, and size them down. You can even size them down further with the tool mod, but we don't really need to. I'm actually going to insert them into the bed. I think I'm going to put the will-o-wisps by the pillow. And then here in live mode you can see you got a bit of sparkle to your bed. I didn't put any here because that seems to be an area where the bed can't handle having objects directly under it or on it, because it seems to block them from being able to access it. But if you put it at the end or by the pillow, it seems like you can do that, and so you've got like this little magical bed. And there you have it, 3 different styles of hanging beds that you can create, and with those techniques you can create all kinds of different styles. Feel free to tag me in the gallery, #fantasims, so that I can see any creations that you come up with using these techniques. I hope you had fun watching this. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and I love you tons and tons.